Lately, a topic of popular discussion has been the crazy weather and storms. Mother Nature has definitely been in a little bit of a mood lately. As I'm sure you have noticed, there has been a lot of rain and coastal storms. Well, El Nino may have a big impact on these storms. Joe Delacarpini of the National Weather Service gives NCM an exclusive of the current weather pattern and the future outlook.
So, what about this winter? Well, El Nino has been the big story, as I'm sure many of you have heard. And that refers to the warming of the waters off the Pacific coast of South America. That's down here in this box in the diagram. So, when we see that, it's called El Nino, and the opposite is La Nina, which was what we saw last winter when the water was colder than average. But in either case, there's a connection between the ocean and the atmosphere, and that results in kind of global weather influences. It influences the jet stream on kind of the global scale. And right now, El Nino is forecast to continue into the spring. So it'll continue to influence us for the rest of the winter. Now, during winter here in New England, there really is no direct correlation between having an El Nino and what the weather pattern will be. It's more notable in other parts of North America, in particular the northern tier of states and in Canada, where it tends to be warmer than average. Along the desert southwest into the Gulf Coast, it tends to be wetter than average and sometimes a little cooler as well. And that's because the Pacific jet stream is really very active in these situations. And that's certainly something we've seen this year. I'll talk about that in a minute. But this El Nino does provide kind of our global background for the winter. So overall, we kind of expect a milder winter in most cases, but we're also in a period of warming temperatures over the past 30 to 50 years and a greater frequency of seeing what we call heavy precipitation, meaning an inch or more of rain or even melted snow. So, we can look back at past El Ninos, but it's often difficult because our background climate is changing too. So you can't make a direct correlation with those years. The other thing I always bring up too is if you remember throughout the 2000s, even the 2010s, we had many active winters, a lot of blizzards, not just 2015, but if you go back 2013 in February, we had a significant blizzard. And you can go back through the years. Those were 2 decades that were very snowy. So by the law of averages, maybe we're getting into a period now of even seeing some lighter winters just by, again, balancing things out. And that's what Mother Nature likes to do. So a lot of complicated factors go into winter outlooks. These are just some of the more primary influences that we kind of see for this year. So the one thing a strong El Nino does is it favors more coastal storms. And again, probably not much of a surprise to anybody because we've certainly seen a lot of these from December and into this month in January. Storm systems that form in the Gulf Coast and move up or offshore. A lot of the storms we've had haven't stayed close to the coast. They've actually headed into the Great Lakes, and that puts us on the warmer side of the storm. So that's why we've been seeing so much rain and warmer temperatures as opposed to snowstorms. But a lot of our stronger winter storms and blizzards fall into this category of what we call these Miller type A nor'easters. Again, the ones that form in the Gulf Coast. They track up the coast or offshore. And it has to do with that, as I mentioned, that Pacific jet stream. It's located across the southern tier of states, so that's where all the storms are being generated this winter. So we do expect to see this pattern continue through into February and probably even early March as we go through the rest of the winter here. So we will have the opportunity certainly for more storms. And, if the timing is right, we get the cold air in place, we will get some snow from these as well.